In the headline, Kano government flags off clearance of sensitive areas ahead of rainy season. Fire guts properties as transmission line falls on building behind Kwara Assembly Complex. Drivers protest in Yenagoa over gruesome murder of colleague. And on the foreign scene, Israel closes diplomatic missions worldwide amid military operations in Iran. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Fatima Ahmed Musa. Thank you so much for joining. As the rainy season approaches, the Kano State government has launched a major flood prevention campaign with official flag-off of its annual drainage clearance exercise at the flood-prone Babangwari roundabout in Kano metropolis. The initiative, spearheaded by the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, aims to mitigate the perennial threats of flooding in critical parts of the city. The exercise is part of the state's broader environmental management strategy to improve urban resilience and protect lives and infrastructure. Speaking during the flag-off ceremony, Commissioner for Environment and Climate Change Hashim Mohammed Dahiru said the Babangwari roundabout was deliberately chosen for its symbolic and practical significance. Dahiru noted that residents and road users in the area have long suffered from recurring floods that have impacted livelihoods, health, and mobility. He described the flag-off as more than just a routine activity, calling it a clear signal of the government's commitment to proactive environmental governance and urban resilience. Late-night fire outbreak on Thursday razed parts of a residential compound in Asadam area of Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, following the collapse of a high-tension transmission line on the premises. According to the Kwara State Fire Service, the incident occurred at about 9:12 p.m. at Alpha Olorukemi compound, located behind the Kwara State House of Assembly. The fire, which broke out in a building comprising 3 units of three-bedroom apartment, was triggered when a 33 kVA power line fell and made contact with a plastic overhead water tank within the compound. Upon receiving the distress call, firefighters were swiftly mobilized to the scene. However, their efforts were initially hampered by the continued power supply from the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company, which posed a serious safety risk and made firefighting operations difficult. The head of the media and publicity for the State Fire Service, Hassan Hakim Adekunle, disclosed that the control room of the IBEDC was immediately contacted to shut down the feeder supplying electricity to the area. A boat driver in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State capital, has protested against the gruesome murder of one of their members, Emmanuel Eden, by unknown men suspected to be assassins. The boat driver in their hundreds and armed with placards with inscriptions such as "Stop harassing boat drivers. Boat drivers are breadwinners of a family. We need better security. No to brutality and killings," and "Governor Diri, come to our aid," marched from Tumbia Junction through the state capital, appealing to the state government to take necessary actions to bring justice to the deceased family. The protest also had members of the Nigerian Union of Journalists and some civil society joining in solidarity. One of the protesters, Jolie Adomokeme, said that they are on a peaceful march against the gruesome killing of their member and are calling for justice. According to Adokeme, though police have been a friend, but some bad eggs among them have displayed acts against civil members of the society. The deceased boat driver was shot dead on May 29, 2025 at Samfino Junction in the Pansia axis of Yenagoa, the state capital, in the night. Now, on a sad note, the pain of loss is often compounded by the vacuum left behind. For Khadija Haruna, the mother of one of the drivers killed in Ogi Junction attack in Imo State, that void now includes hunger. Her son, Haruna Muhammad, was not only her child, but the family's sole breadwinner. Now she says she has no one to turn to. She's left starving with no one to turn to. Trust TV's Ado Musa visited the grieving family and brings us this report.
It was a deadly Saturday along Ogi Junction in Okigwe local government area of Imo State, where two truck drivers, Haruna Muhammad and Adamu Ibrahim, were ambushed, killed, and their vehicle set ablaze. According to the National Union of Road Transport Workers, the truck was loaded with gari and was en route to Port Harcourt when the fatal attack occurred. Back home, heartbreak followed swiftly after news of the killing reached their families.
Ina son yarona mai kulawa da ni ne, yarona na sona kullum.
It is a painful death. My lovely son took care of all my needs. He supported me, his siblings, everyone. The day he died, he promised to send money for food and to help with my rent. Hours later, I heard only that he was gone. I will never forget and I will never forgive those who did this.
Khadija recalled her uneasiness on the morning of Haruna's departure, an instinct she now believes was a warning.
He left the house and came back 5 times. On the 5th return, I held his hand and asked if everything was all right. He smiled, told me he loved me, and reminded me how much I had suffered to raise him. That was the last time I saw him alive.
Haruna is survived by 2 wives, both of whom are grappling with the trauma of his sudden death.
We spoke earlier that day. He said he would reach Port Harcourt before sunset. Instead, we got the news that he was dead. He cared for all of us, his parents and children. Now, he has gone. I was in the room when my co-wife rushed in crying. She said Haruna was dead. My world shattered. He was our provider, a kind and trustworthy man. We will never forget him.
Amidst the grief, the family is calling for justice, not only for their loved ones, but to ensure others do not suffer the same fate. From Okigwe in Imo State to the heart of a grieving family, the pain of violence continues to leave scars far beyond the scene of the crime. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
The Kwara State Independent Electoral Commission, TSIEC, has announced the schedule for the 2025 local government elections, confirming that the tenure of current chairman will end in November. The executive chairman of TSIEC, L. Philip Due, made the announcement during a stakeholders meeting at the Nigerian Union of Teachers Conference Hall in Jalingo. The Commission has also issued a formal notice signaling the commencement of preparations for the upcoming elections during the stakeholders meeting. Due, who reaffirmed that under the existing state laws, elected local government chairmen serve a 2-year term, said the current tenure will expire in November 2025. Speaking at the meeting, representatives of political parties and civil society groups emphasized the importance of internal democracy and called on party leaders to allow voters to freely elect candidates of their choices.
This year is our election year, 2025. I want to say this with clarity that the tenure of the local council will expire this year. We need not wait to say, all right, until it comes to the dawn of the exit of the council. We need to sensitize and bring collaboration in our thinking in advancing democracy in Kwara State. Our law gives us the latitude of 90 days
I think there is a future for other political parties to hope that they can stand for election and win. If the bandwagon attitude is taken in Taraba, then it means that nothing is going to change.
To comment this house, I want to thank all the participants, and it is my sincere prayer that before leaving this place, we should be able to have one or two things very tangible, viable, that we should go and tell our followers. Every reporter is supposed to be conversant with the ethics of the profession. First of all, a reporter is supposed to be conversant with the guidelines of the election. The reporter is supposed to know everything that has to do with the election processes. And the reporter, during coverage, the reporter is supposed to balance his report.
Over the years, the media, your office, been carrying the media along. We also want you to improve on that by providing an enabled environment for the media to be able to monitor local government elections in Kwara State. Why do I say so? There should be accreditation of the media. Before going out, there should be tags.
The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has directed aviation agencies to investigate the incident at Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. A row broke out on Wednesday at the domestic wing of the Airport Terminal 1 in Lagos between Senator Adams Oshomole and other officials of Air Peace Airline over preventing the senator from boarding a 6:30 a.m. flight. The airline said the senator arrived after the boarding process had ended and the plane departed. Senator Oshomole alleged that he and other passengers were victims of sharp practices by the airline staff members who redirected their tickets to other passengers at high rates. He denied barricading the terminal, disrupting flight operations, or being unruly as alleged by the airline. Oshomole said he only decided to fight for Nigerians who were being extorted by the airline under the pretext of coming late. Reacting to the development on Friday via post on his official X handle, F. Keyamo, the minister directed aviation agencies to thoroughly probe the issues and revert to his office. He noted that the investigation will enable the sector to deal with issues in such a way as to guide future conduct in similar situations. The minister, however, did not give a timeline for the conclusion of the investigation. And now experts in Nigeria's food chain have called for concerted efforts from governments at all levels and other partners to address the menace of malnutrition in the country. This follows as new reports on the state of food security and malnutrition in Nigeria is drawing strong reactions as the country continues its battle against malnutrition, particularly among children. In this special report, our correspondent in Benue State examines the current state of malnutrition in Nigeria. The report.
Malnutrition refers to deficiencies, excesses, or imbalances in a person's intake of energy or nutrients, as well as the body's impaired ability to utilize these nutrients properly. According to a new report on the state of food security and nutrition, an estimated 172 million Nigerians, representing 78.7% of the population, cannot afford a healthy diet. This alarming figure is attributed to various factors, including limited access to nutritious food, poor dietary habits, terrorism, insecurity, internal displacement, low levels of education and awareness, as well as ongoing economic instability. Additionally, the recent surge in food prices due to inflation has placed even greater pressure on already vulnerable households, making nutritious meals increasingly unaffordable for many families. Children are particularly affected by malnutrition. The consequences include preventable deaths, stunted physical and cognitive development, weakened immune systems, and increased vulnerability to diseases. Experts link these outcomes to a combination of economic hardship, entrenched cultural norms and beliefs, and insufficient funding for nutrition-related initiatives. Although the government is making efforts to combat malnutrition, experts argue that these measures are still far from adequate.
The insecurity and displacement is number one. The inadequate food intake in those children, which relates to insecurity. Insecurity, there are less farmers on the farms farming, and there is reduced food production. And with reduced food production, some of the food is being sold. So what is being consumed in the households is less. And unfortunately, when there's less food, the children get to be fed less. Okay, so this is all related.
There's some beliefs that said children should not eat eggs. Pregnant women should not eat this kind of animals and all of that. It affects nutrition negatively. And then myths and misconception. There are beliefs, erroneous beliefs and misconception about the diet we take, leading to poor intake of nutritious diet. We understand that the issue of malnutrition is all about behavioral attitudinal behavior. So when we affect the behavior of the people, change it positively, it will also change their behavior towards nutrition and nutritious food.
Experts emphasize that long-term solutions must be adopted to address the root causes of malnutrition.
A solution is to do what the rest of the world is doing, to ensure that we have adequate, high biological value protein for the children to grow. Because the protein that we find in crops, it's not the high biological value, it's inadequate. It does not help the children to grow the way they're supposed to grow.
Presently, as we have it now, most of our activities are donor-driven, which is not the best. We want the government to be on the driver's seat and not partners. The government has to, like I said, increase investment into nutrition. I want to employ the government to do what? To invest in nutrition. It will be wonderful. Like I said, funding can never ever be enough because the tax ahead of us as far as malnutrition is concerned is enormous. That means that much funds should be allocated for nutrition.
They are calling for increased emergency funding for food, effective diagnosis and treatment of malnourished children, and widespread education and awareness programs for parents and caregivers.
You're still watching News Update on Trust TV. Coming up after the break. Rights advocates call for urgent reforms to protect vulnerable children and end street begging. There's some more when we return. To stay. Welcome back. And if you're just joining, this is News Update on Trust TV. In case you missed it, here's a recap of our top stories again. We told you that Kano government flags of clearance of sensitive areas ahead of a rainy season. And fire guts properties as transmission line falls on buildings behind Kwara Assembly Complex. Now moving on to more stories. Some residents of Gusau, the Zamfara state capital, have said that insecurity and poverty are factors that force some people to engage in street begging. They called on government to address the challenges. They made this known while speaking to Trust TV in Gusau, the state capital. To report.
Begging in the streets has become part of the North Society, with Zamfara State, northwest Nigeria, not an exception. This is because many people indulge in the act to feed and care for their children. As one moves around in the streets, he or she would be accosted by young children, women and men claiming that they have not eaten while demanding for financial help. For those residents of Gusau Metropolis, street begging does not have a link with cultural beliefs, but poverty and insecurity are responsible for the surge.
Begging is not a cultural, because though we have them, but it's not in the high rate of or high number of the begging, because of the insecurity that is bedeviling the environment and the community and the local to the state. That is what results the high rate of begging, because people leave their community down to the city. They have nowhere to stay. They have nothing to eat.
Street begging is related matters to the poverty. The poverty is a keyword that make the people to become a beggars. Before they are small. That they are begging at the street are very rare.
Most of those that engage in street begging, sons are what, and they inculcate that culture. You understand? They have those that can help them, but the problem is that most of our government neglected those social welfare funds.
A Gusau-based journalist, Abdullahi Chakwa, however, said that street begging has become a business venture for some beggars who have made money in begging and have established businesses but still beg in the street.
Majority of the street beggars in the north, you understand, they turn street begging as a way of income.
Respondents said that if insecurity and poverty are addressed by the government, it will go a long way to eliminate street begging, which according to them is engaged in by those who are able and some living with disabilities.
The beggars are much increased as a result of insecurity. Insecurity has contributed a lot in that street begging. It is not the cultural of our people.
Because of the insecurity that is bedeviling the environment and the community and the local to the state, that is what results the high rate of begging. Because people leave their community down to the city, they have nowhere to stay, they have nothing to eat, nowhere to go. They have to find themselves in the begging system.
Politicians, they are the ones that contributed to this corporate begging. You understand? Because they are the one engineering political thought. They are the one engineering these talks.
Banditry in Zamfara State has impacted negatively on the people, displaced communities, thereby creating multiple social issues.
Across Nigeria, a number of children begging on the street is becoming alarming. In Kano State, although many are known to be almajirai, others are victims of either poverty or insecurity. Advocates and officials are calling for urgent reforms to protect vulnerable children. Abdulaziz Ibrahim completes this report.
On the streets of Nigeria's major cities, this is becoming too common. Children, some barely old enough to speak, move through traffic and neighborhoods begging for food or money. According to a 2024 UNICEF report, millions of children around the world are engaged in street begging. In Nigeria, the issue goes beyond poverty. It's a reflection of deeper systemic failures. Kano is one of the cities hardest hit by this crisis. Hassan Ibrahim, who works with a civil society organization in Kano State, highlights the unique challenges facing residents.
Husband and wife, during the time when he is alive, 100% the wife depends on the husband. Look at the situation whereby even matches and salt is the husband that is bringing it. 100% support. And during the time when he is alive, he has never talked to his wife to learn how to raise some, to do some businesses for her to support herself. Up to the time when the husband died, she has never known how to raise some amount of money to depend on herself. He has never known how to carry out a small businesses. When the husband died, and then what next? He didn't know anything except to push her child in the street for him to beg. And the worst part about it is the community. The community do not help matters. Communities will only help you when you beg, when you talk, when you shout. But those people will understand that if they are in need and nobody is supporting them, then they will beg.
As insecurity and economic hardship deepen, women are being pushed into desperate choices. Hawa Musa says she and other women leave their neighborhood in Hotoro each day to this highbrow area of the city just to avoid begging for alms.
I have 8 children and my husband died due to the insurgency in Baga, Meduguri. I was given a place to stay. I don't want to beg. This kola nut business is what I hope to use to take care of my children and avoid the dangers of sending them out to beg.
Despite several government policies aimed at addressing struggles of Hawa and others like her, Experts are calling for a comprehensive strategy, emphasizing the urgent need for improved social welfare efforts. Child protection advocates argue that the original intent of Almajiranci has been hijacked. Today, syndicates control many of these children, setting begging quotas, punishing defaulters, and exposing them to violence and abuse. While reforms under the Sangaya model aim to address these issues, implementation has been inconsistent. According to advocates, what is needed is a multi-pronged approach.
When the Almajiri schools have been integrated with the government and then there is a support to the imams of those Almajiri schools, I'm sure, and then when the imam identifies that the government and the community have known now what is happening, you pushing the children for them to go and get money for you, and then with the support of the government, I am sure one of the things that will be solved.
The issue of Almajiri or Begin is in Kano and like in many parts of the Nigerian cities is a complex socio-cultural issue that is far rooted down. One, to do with the solution as you requested, I think there are about 3 to 4 alternative ways. One is to do with the reform of the Almajiri system. When I talk of the reform, is to do with how can the Almajiri system, how can Western education be integrated into Almajiri system. To do with that, where registered or Almajiri organization or Almajiri Malams are to be registered with the government on one part. Second is to do with the socio-economic empowerment, whereby the government need to have introduced a vocational skill system where tailored only to that Almajiri school people. And another thing which I think may be important is to do with the legislation. Currently, there are virtually a poor legislation or poor policies tailoring toward addressing the issue.
Experts say that prioritizing children's rights and launching grassroots awareness campaigns alongside strict enforcement against exploitation are key to reducing child street begging. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, Trust TV News, Kano.
And with that, we have come to the end of News Update on Trust TV. Do not forget to watch us across all our social media platforms for more news, programs, and documentaries. I am Fatima Ahmed Musa.